Lesson 3. Study of Criminal Behavior. Prod. Prod postulates three part of personality consisting id, ego, and superego. Id. Id is a part of unconscious that contains all the urges and impulses, including what we call libido. Ego. Ego is the only part of conscious personality. It's what person is aware of when they think about themselves and is what they usually try to project toward. Superego is a part of unconscious that is the voice of conscience and the source of self-criticism. Defense mechanism. Sublimation. Desires of the id are diverted to health outlets approved by the superego. Next is repression. Desires of the id stuck back into a subconscious and the person denies they exist or engages Freudian sleeps. Regression. Desires of the id are followed impulsively to escape from being hearing or the superego. Denial or intellectualization. Anxiety about following desires of id goes, acknowledge and treat emotionally. Projection. Prohibition of the superego are applied as a standard for judging others and not oneself. Fixation. Superego is so strong that the person continually makes amends or apologies for what they do. Next is reaction formation. Both id and superego are so strong that person does the opposite of both, sometimes identifying the aggressors. Last, displacement. Both id and superego are so strong and ego is so weak that person settles for the second best or any available substitute. Classification of behavior. Normal behavior. Standard behavior, the totally accepted behavior because they follow the standard norms of society. Next is abnormal behavior. A group of behaviors that is deviant from social expectation because they go against the norms or standard behavior of society. Kinds of behavior. Overt and covert behavior. Behaviors that are outwardly manifested or those that are directly observable are overt behaviors. Conscious and unconscious behavior. Behavior is conscious when acts are within level of awareness, and unconscious when acts are embedded in one's subconscious unaware. Simple or complex behavior. These are acts categorized according to the number of neutrons involved in the process of behaving. Simple behavior, less number of neutrons, while complex behavior involves more number of neutrons, a combination of simple behavior. Rational and irrational behavior. This is rational behavior when a person acted with sanity or reason, and there is irrational behavior when the person acted with no apparent reason. Voluntary and involuntary. Voluntary behavior is an act done with full volition or will such as we discriminate, decide, or choose, while involuntary behaviors refers to bodily processes that pose on even when we are awake or asleep, like respiration, circulation, and digestion. Aspects of behavior. Intellectual aspect. This aspect of behavior pertains to our way of thinking, reasoning, solving problem, processing info, and coping with the environment. The next is emotional aspect. This pertains to our feelings, moods, temper, strong motivational force. Next is social aspect. This pertains to how we interact or relate with other person. The next is moral aspect. This aspect is our conscience and concept on what is good or bad. The next is psychosexual aspect. This pertains to our being man and women and the expression of love. The next is political aspect. This aspect pertains to our ideology towards society or government. The next is value or attitude. This pertains to our interest towards something, our likes or dislikes. Determinants of behavior. Heredity. Heredity is the primary basis of idea and concept that criminals are born. Environmental factors. This refers to anything around the person that influences his action. Family background. Family whereby an individual first experiences how to relate and interact with another. Childhood trauma, which the experiences which affect the feeling of security of the child undergoing the developmental processes. Pathogenic family. Those families associated with high frequency of problem such as inadequate family, characterized by inability to cope with ordinary problems of family living. The next is antisocial family. Those that espouses unacceptable values as a result of the influence of parents to their children. Next is the discordant or disturbed, characterized by non-satisfaction of one or both parent from the relationship that may expresses feeling of frustration. Next is disrupted family, characterized by incompleteness, whether as a result of death, divorce, separation, or some other circumstances. Other determinants behavior. Needs and drives. Needs, according to the drive reduction theory, is a biological requirement for well-being of the individual. Next is motivation. Refers to the influences that govern the initiation, direction, intensity, and persistence of behavior. Biological needs, motivational system. Number 1 is food. Second, food. The body needs an adequate supply of nutrients to function effectively. Second, water. Just like food, the body needs water. Next is sex. Powerful motivator, but unlike food and water, sex is not vital for survival but essential to the survival of aspects. Pain avoidance. The need to avoid tissue damage or essential to survival of the organism. Next is stimulus seeking. Curiosity is the most people and animal is motivated to explore environment even when the activity satisfies no bodily needs. Psychological needs are influenced primarily by the kind of society in which individual is raised. Maslow hierarchy of need. Number 1 is biological or physiological needs. It includes food, water, oxygen, activity, and sleep. The second is safety needs. This pertains to the motives of being cared for and being secured, such as income and place to live. Third is love and belongings. Belongings is integration into various kinds of social group or social organization. Next is cognitive needs. Our motivation for learning and exploration. Next is esteem needs. Our motivation for an honest, fundamental respect for a person as a useful and honorable human being. Next is aesthetic needs. So, our motivation for beauty and order. The last is self-actualization. Pertains to human total satisfaction. The next topic is frustration, conflict, and anxiety. Frustration, it is the form of stress which results tension. Conflicts refers to a stimulus arousal of two or more incompatible motives resulting to unpleasant emotion. Types of conflict. Double approach conflict. A person is motivated to engage in two desirable activities that cannot be pursued simultaneously. Double avoidance conflict. A person faces two undesirable situations in which avoidance of one is the exposure of the other, resulting to an intense emotion. Approach avoidance conflict. A person faces a situation having both a desirable and undesirable feature. Multiple approach avoidance conflict. It is most difficult to resolve because the features of each portion are often difficult to compare. Next is anxiety. Is an intangible feeling that seems to evade any effort to resolve it. Next is stress. Is the process of adjusting to or dealing with circumstances that disrupts or threatens to disrupt a person's physical or psychological functioning. These are the patterns of criminal behavior. Number 1 is neurotic, psychoneurotic behaviors. 3 is neurotic paradox and anxiety disorders. Next, classification of anxiety disorder. Obsessive-compulsive disorder, asthenic disorder, and phobic disorder. These are the example of phobias. Phobia, object of fear. Acrophobia, high places. Agoraphobia, fear of open places. Algophobia, fear of pain. Astrophobia, fear of storm and lightning. Claustrophobia, fear of closed places. Hematophobia, fear of blood, and etc. Somatoform disorder. The individual is preoccupied with his state of health or diseases. Classification of somatoform disorder. Hypochondriasis, psychogenic pain disorder, conversion disorder. Next topic. Sensory symptoms of hysteria. Anesthesia, loss of sensitivity. Hyperesthesia, excessive sensitivity. Hyperesthesia, partial loss of sensitivity to pain. Analgesia, loss of sensitivity to pain. paresthesia, exceptional sensation. Motor symptoms of hysteria, paralysis, selective of function. Astasia abasha, inability to control leg with standing. Aphonia, partial inability to speak. Mostism, total inability to speak. Visceral symptoms of hysteria, choking sensation, coughing spells, difficulty in breathing, cold clammy extremities, nausea. Dissociative disorder, a response to obvious stress characterized by amnesia. Amnesia is a partial or total inability to recall or identify past experiences following a traumatic incident. Brain pathology amnesia, total loss of memory. Psychogenic amnesia, failure to recall stored information and still they are being level of unconsciousness but forgotten material. Multiple personality, it is called dual personality. The reason manifests are two or more symptoms of personality, usually dramatically different. Classification of mood disorder. Depressive disorder. Major depressive disorder. Patients with depressed mood have lost energy and interest. Dysrhythmic disorder, mild form of major depressive disorder. Bipolar disorder, those experienced by patients with both manic and depressive episode. Cyclothymic disorder, a less severe form of bipolar disorder. Psychopathic disorder, this pertains to the second group of abnormal behavior. Personality disorder, they are called disorder of character. The person here is characterized by problematic without psychosis. Paranoid personality disorder, it is characterized by suspicious rigidity, envy, hypersensitivity, excessive, and self-importance. Histrionic personality disorder, it is characterized by immaturity, excitability, emotional instability, and self-dramatization. And the other disorder is narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, avoidant personality disorder, dependent personality disorder, passive-aggressive personality disorder, compulsive personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder. The sexual deviation disorder. This is for males only. Erectile insufficiency. This is a sexual disorder characterized by the inability to achieve maintain erection for successful intercourse. Next is premature ejaculation. This is unsatisfactory brief period of sexual stimulation that results to the failure of the female partner to achieve satisfaction. Retarded ejaculation. It is the inability to ejaculate during intercourse. Arousal insufficiency, a sexual disorder characterized by partial or complete failure to attain the lubrication or swelling response of sexual excitement by the female partner. Orgasmic dysfunction, a sexual disorder characterized by difficulty achieving orgasm. Vaginismus, the involuntary spasm of the muscle and the entrance of the vagina that prevent penetration of the male sex organ. Next is dyspareunia. It's called painful coitus, painful sexual acts in women. Sexual behaviors leading to sex crime. Homosexuality. It is a sexual behavior directed toward the same sex. Next is transvestism. Refers to the achievement of sexual excitation by dressing as a member of the opposite sex, such a man who wears female apparel. Next is fetishism. Sexual gratification is obtained by looking at the some body parts, underwear of the opposite sex, or other objects associated with the opposite sex as the choice of the partner. Pedophilia. The person perversion where a person has compulsive desire to a sexual intercourse with a child of either sex. Bestiality. The sexual gratification is attained having sexual intercourse with animals. Autosexual. Sexual satisfaction carried out without the cooperation of another. Gerontophilia is a sexual desire with an elder person. Necrophilia, an erotic desire of or actual intercourse with a corpse. Incest, the sexual intercourse between people who by reason of blood relationship cannot legally marry. As mode of sexual expression. Oralism. It is use of mouth or the tongue as way of sexual satisfaction. Fellatio. Male sex organ to the mouth of the woman coupled with the act of sucking that initiates orgasm. Cunnilingus. Sexual gratification attained by licking the external female genitalia. Analism. Licking the anus of the sexual partner. The last is sado. Masochism. Next topic is pain, cruelty for sexual gratification. Sadism. Achievement of sexual stimulation and gratification, the infliction of physical pain on the sexual partner. Masochism. Infliction of pain to oneself to achieve sexual pleasure. As to part of the body. Sodomy is sexual act through the anus of sexual partner. Uradism. Sexual gratification attained to fingering, holding the breast, or licking parts of the body. Frontage, the act of rubbing the sex organ against the body parts of another person. Partialism, it refers to the sexual libido on any part of the body as sexual partner. As to visual stimulus, voyeurism, or the peeping Tom. It is an achievement of sexual pleasures through clandestine peeping, such as peeping to dressing room, couple room, toilets, and etc. Scoptophilia, the intentional act of watching people undress or during sexual intimacies. As to number of participants in sexual act, trialism. 3 persons participates in sex orgy. Pluralism. Group of persons sexual orgies, such couple to couple sexual relation. It's called sexual festival. Next is other sexual abnormalities. Exhibitionism. It is called indecent exposure. Intentional exposure or genitals to members to opposite sex under inappropriate condition. Caprolalia. The use of obscene language to achieve sexual satisfaction. Next is Don Juanism, the act of seducing women as a career without pertinency of sexual partner or companion.